All right, what is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? Welcome back here today to another episode of the Just Ballin' podcast. For today's episode, we are going to pretty much just be reacting to all the 2024 free agency signings so far, kind of giving my opinion. Did I like the signing? Did I dislike the signing? Did it surprise me? How do I feel about its team's kind of construction going into 2025 and onward? And that's pretty much going to be the basis of it. We're going to go through pretty much every signing that has happened here on Spot Track, at least most of them. When we get into like honestly, I think I will react to most of them. Maybe Justin Minaya, maybe Kyle Gillespie won't get a full breakdown analysis of it, but yeah, they're still kind of, I guess, interesting in some aspects. And we could start off with OG Anunoby. We're going to go by contract value all the way down. He ended up getting a 5-year deal worth $212 million. $42 million a year. It's a lot for OG Anunoby because obviously he's not a top 10, probably not a top 20, maybe not even a top 30 player in this league. What he could do on both sides of the ball, though, I think make this contract well worth it. Obviously, he had a lot of leverage here. The Knicks gave up RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley to go out and get him, so they had to pretty much pay any dollar amount. Now, I would have liked if there were some injury incentive things in here or contract clauses. I mean, those could still come out, but Anunoby has missed a lot of time throughout his career, and someone that's going to have a $36 million cap hit next year. It'll hit $48 million player option in 2029, but with the cap going up, honestly, that's not too bad either. And like I said, the Knicks really had no other choice here with them trading for Mikal Bridges, and you gave up, like I said, Barrett and Quickley, so you really had to go out and give all that you could for OG Anunoby, because I'm sure he could have left for Philadelphia. Maybe OKC could have threw him a bag. And the Knicks get somebody that's still just 27 years old, and you're getting him throughout the course of his prime. When he is healthy, he is arguably the best perimeter defender in all of basketball. And offensively, when he wants to, he can be super aggressive. Like Game 2 against the Pacers in round 2, before he suffered the hamstring injury, he was going off. He was attacking the rim. He was knocking down shots that were contested. His mid-range jumper is great. And I think this is obviously what the Knicks need to do if they want to win a championship next year. So is it a little bit much for OG Anunoby? Yes. But I honestly don't think it's going to be that much. I honestly like it more than Paul George. I think OG Anunoby in 2025 will be a better basketball player than Paul George. And maybe that's me being biased. I mean, it definitely could be. But what Anunoby's going to provide you defensively and where Paul George is at this point of his career. Like last year as a number 2 for the Clippers, he was an all-star. Honestly, if Maxey's like the full-on number 2, I don't think Paul George is going to be an all-star this year. I think the defense took a little bit of a hit, but he's still a solid defender, and he's still a good shot creator, obviously, and he could take over games at times. But there's going to be a year of regression. I don't know if it's going to be in the age 35 year. It could be in the age 38 year, in the last year of his 4-year deal. But it's $52 million a year. Like he's about 7 years older, about 7 years older than OG Anunoby. So I do think that this contract isn't going to age all that well. And if I were the 76ers, I would have preferred going after KCP in free agency, getting like a Jalen Smith as a backup 5, and then maybe adding some other wings as well. You could bring back Buddy Hield, bring back D'Anthony Melton, and just have like a lot of good role players right around Maxey and Embiid. You could have gone with a bunch of different guys that got role-playing contracts. And I think like the storage contract's not going to be pretty in the 2028 season, $56 million player option. But the Sixers' goal is to win a title with Joel Embiid. And we don't know how many good years Joel Embiid has left. I believe he's 29 years old, and he's injured every year in some way, shape, or form, and it's banged up. And can you ask him to play 100 games in a year in which you'd be playing to win a championship? So we'll see. I think the contract will be fine next year, and like I said, with the way the cap is moving, I'm fine with it. I just think this contract, I think like the final year of OG Anunoby's contract, he's still going to be a top 35 player in this league. But in the final year of Paul George's contract, I would be very shocked if he's a top 35 player in this league. Obviously for Tyrese Maxey, this is a no-brainer. It's his rookie max extension. Shout out to Maxey getting the max, no pun intended, but not getting it last year and kind of putting it off for a year. He obviously had an incredible season, showed up in the regular season, was an all-star, showed up in the playoffs at times for the Sixers, was a little inconsistent, but still was phenomenal, especially in Game 5 at the Garden. And yeah, like $46 million for Maxey in his age 28 season is going to seem like a steal then. And shout out to the Kentucky backcourt from 2020 getting paid, because we got Emmanuel Quickley as well. Emmanuel Quickley, this one seems a little bit expensive, right? About $35 million a year on average for Emmanuel Quickley. Seems kind of high. I'm higher on Emmanuel Quickley than I feel like some other people are. I thought what I saw from him in Toronto after getting traded from the Knicks was phenomenal, and I think he's somebody that's going to be able to break down the defense, get his teammates involved, shoot at a high clip from 3, but I think still is going to get to the rim with ease. And if I could see Emmanuel Quickley be a consistent 45% from the field guy this year, I think this contract is going to be well worth it. And like the Knicks with Anunoby, they could not afford for Maxey to leave because they gave up a lot for him. It is kind of crazy that the Knicks gave up Quickly and Barrett for OG, and the Pacers gave up 3 first-round picks and Bruce Brown for Pascal Siakam. But I get, like, both were pretty much going to be free agents. I guess with Anunoby being a little bit younger, that's why he went for more. But yeah, I think honestly the Pacers made out really well, not having to give up really too much talent outside of Bruce Brown. They give up the 19th overall pick, Jacoby Walter, this year to get Pascal Siakam, and like the Knicks, they had to re-sign him. So 4 years, $190 million seems kind of a lot for Pascal Siakam. He's probably not going to be a 1 at any point of his career. I think he struggled at times to really take over games in the playoffs, especially in that Bucks series. He did play well though over the course of the playoffs, and I think it's a great number 2. This Pacers team is going to be an interesting construction because I don't think they have an offensive leader, at least scoring wise, to win a championship. But you do have like Siakam and Halliburton, who I think are great number 2s. And Halliburton could be a number 1 in my opinion if he does decide to be more aggressive next year and onwards in his career. And you have like great pieces around him, like you have Miles Turner, like great rim protecting 5. He's going to get paid next year. You have Andrew Nembhard, who's going to get paid eventually. You have Jarris Walker, like you have McConnell and Nesmith, Ben Shepherd, Obi Toppin, Isaiah Jackson. This is a deep team. And with their depth, they can withstand injuries. And maybe this is a team that could make it to the conference finals again. I wouldn't bet on it. I still think they're a tier below the Knicks, Celtics, and 76ers on paper, and I do think they're in like a tier with like Orlando, Cleveland, and Miami on paper. But come playoff time, this team has obviously been in the big moments before. They beat the Bucks, they beat the Knicks, although they did have injuries to them. They were able to still beat the teams in front of them. So it'll be interesting to see if they go back to the conference finals next year, because that should be the goal, or could this be a little bit of 2021 Atlanta Hawks-esque, right? LeBron did just get a 2-year extension from the LA Lakers, 2 years, $103 million. It was funny because there was the report, well, yeah, it does have a player option in 26 as well, that LeBron was willing to maybe take a pay cut if they could land like a James Harden or Klay Thompson or Jonas Valanciunas, and they got none of them. And then, like, I thought it was funny that Woj tweeted out, like, there's serious discussion that LeBron is going to take $1 million less than the max because that will avoid the Lakers of the second apron, which I think they're already in the second apron anyway. But then it's funny because I did the math. LeBron's a billionaire, so he'd be giving up like 0.01% of his net worth. And if you have $100,000 like as your net worth, that'd be you giving up $100 for a team to be out of the second apron. I just thought that was kind of funny, breaking that down. But yeah, obviously this works out for the Lakers. You drafted Bronny, you signed JJ Redick. They kind of had to get this done. It would have been crazy if LeBron left. Nick Claxton gets a 4-year deal from the Brooklyn Nets, about $100 million. I actually think that's not too bad the way that the salary cap is, and some centers could get paid a lot more. Like, I do think Hardenstein is better than Claxton right now. Who would I rather have over the next 5 years? But I do think this is actually a pretty solid deal, yeah, from the Nets long term. And honestly, like, they're a team that's rebuilding, but who knows? This could be a soft rebuild. This could be just a bad in 2025 team, and then try to maybe make a splash next year if they do also get a top pick in the draft. And you have Cam Thomas. We'll see if they decide to move him or they're going to pay him next year. But Nick Claxton either is going to make it throughout this rebuild as a really good, solid center for them over the next 4 years throughout his prime years, or he turns into a great trade piece down the line as well. Patrick Williams, 5 years, $90 million. I thought it was a little expensive for Patrick Williams. It's a little bit more than the mid-level exception. Someone that got off to an abysmal start in the 2024 season. He wanted like a $150 million plus contract in the preseason. He doesn't get that. It could work out for both parties. He's still just 23 years old, so his career is far from over. And as long as the Bulls can continue to prioritize his development, give him the full starting reins at the power forward spot, I don't know what's going on with DeMar DeRozan. He hasn't signed by the time I'm recording this, so we'll see if he ends up going back to Chicago. I hope not, because then that could provide more touches for Pat Will. I know they're trying to trade Zach LaVine. I hope a deal can get done. But I think it's a little much for Pat Williams, but honestly, I think he can play into that contract. Isaiah Hartenstein got basically 3 years, $87 million. It's not, I think, fully guaranteed in the final year. People have been saying, it's $59 million guaranteed, which is kind of crazy because, like, he could have got $74 million guaranteed from the Knicks, but that would have been over 4 years. He can get $59 million over 2 years, and obviously can earn another contract as well. But I think for Hartenstein, his stats are not going to be the same in OKC. He turns into, the 7th, 8th most important guy, and they like to run 5 out with Chet. Are they going to be able to optimize that lineup with Chet at the 4? How is that going to work out? Is Chet going to be athletic enough on the perimeter, both on the offensive and defensive end, instead of guarding other teams' 5s? I think so. I mean, Chet is still really young. He's athletic, but obviously he's not like the most, I think, like functional in his size. But he's someone that can space the floor, can block shots. But it's funny because like Hartenstein could play like 18 minutes in the playoffs, and is that going to be worth $29 million a year? No, but he will make them better. And this is a team that wants to win the championship in 2025, and adding Hartenstein can only do that. And like I said, it's 2 years guaranteed, which is great. because once you have to pay J-Dub and Chet in 2 years, you can not guarantee this final year if it were to happen. So good for Hartenstein for getting paid, and a nice win now move for the OKC Thunder. Malik Monk, I thought this was a phenomenal deal for Sacramento. 3 years, probably. He'll probably opt out in his age 29 season. But shout out to Malik Monk, kind of reinventing his career and his game in Sacramento. 17, 18, 20 million a year. This is a Patrick Williams-esque contract, similar amount annually. And this is somebody that's going to make a much more notable impact for the Sacramento Kings team as a secondary shot creator, someone that could take the load off De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis at times. And in my opinion, should have won Sixth Man of the Year last year. And I'm really happy that they were able to get a deal done, because I thought they were going to run into the Hartenstein issue, where Malik Monk definitely could have got more in the open market. I think he could have got a $100 million contract from the Magic or from the Pistons, and that doesn't happen, or maybe from the Spurs, and he takes $77 million from the Kings. I mean, it could be a little bit less than that. It could be around $51 million if he opts out of that contract. But yeah, I thought a phenomenal deal from both sides. Probably $55 million, excuse me. Next up, we got James Harden, 2 years, $70 million from the Clippers. This has a player opt out, I believe, on the second season. I'm pretty sure that is the case. I don't know why that spot check doesn't have this updated yet, but I'm pretty sure there is a player opt out, unless that got updated. But either way, if it's a 1 year deal for the Clippers, Harden, you got to do this. I mean, they lost Paul George, and I think for the Clippers, I'd rather have, I think honestly for this team, if Kawhi and Harden are healthy, Derrick Jones Jr. and Chris Dunn, and I mean Kevin Porter Jr. obviously has baggage to it, but Nick Batum, and I thought they would be able to pick up somebody else as well. But I thought they did a good job. They added Mo Bamba as well, and I think they did a good job replacing Paul George in the aggregate. Obviously, having Paul George as a player individually is better than all the players I mentioned, but they avoid the apron. They bring back James Harden. We'll see how he performs without Paul George. We could see some really nice numbers. I don't know if it's going to translate into winning, but this was pretty big, I think, for both parties. Harden gets still $70 million guaranteed if he needs it, if he feels like he has to opt in next year. This is just a huge failure for the Clippers in the Paul George era, not winning a title, going to one conference finals with Paul George and Kawhi after how big of winners we called them basically back in 2019. KCP got a lot of money. He got $66 million over the course of 3 years, and as a player option in his age 33 season, which I would like to think he's going to opt in. Could be an opt out in another 3 year extension at a lower annual value, but more guaranteed money. I get the magic they needed to spend as a smaller market team while you still have Paolo, Franz, and Suggs all on your current contracts. They brought back Goga Bitadze and Mo Wagner. We'll skip over those because I can mention them right now. They re-signed Jonathan Isaac, bringing back this core and this defensive identity, and KCP's only going to enhance this defensive identity even more. I don't know if they really needed his defense, right? I think they needed more of either another shot creator or more of a facilitating point guard, because I don't think Anthony Black's going to do that next year. I don't know if Suggs could be that guy for you. I think he's better as an off-ball too. Helper. So I thought this team could have maybe still went out and got a Tyus Jones, which would have been nice. We'll see if they still make another move. Jones is still on the market. I just think they didn't need KCP that much. But like I said, as a smaller market team, this is your window to spend. They had to get somebody, and they probably were never getting Paul George, I think, market size wise. So they went out and got KCP. So I like them adding KCP, and I like this team trying to go all in with this core, because Paolo is legitimately somebody that can win a title for you I don't know about next year, but in the future as a number one option, and they're trying to enhance that. Obi Toppin to the Pacers. I mean, Obi's an energy guy, locker room guy, high flyer, works the pick and roll, and can cut with Halliburton to a great level, and their chemistry was great last year. And as a Knicks fan that watched Obi grow up through New York and misused at times, most of the time, I'm glad he got paid. But Jarris Walker, I feel is in a weird situation, and they get Benedict Mathurin back, who I should have mentioned before. They got Aaron Nesmith at the 3. Where is he playing? Siakam and Obi at the 4. They have Isaiah Jackson, who could get moved, James Wiseman, Miles Turner at the 5, Aaron Nesmith, Ben Shepherd, Andrew Nembhard, Benedict Mathurin on the perimeter, and Jarris Walker. I just think this could stump Jarris Walker's development a little bit, and I'm getting kind of Patrick Williams Bulls vibes, because I think Walker was NBA ready, and the defense could have played right away, but we didn't really see that last year. Tobias Harris got $52 million, potentially guaranteed. I do believe the second year is a player option as well. I like this for both parties. Tobias can create his own shot. The basically goal of this offseason would take some of the load with veterans off of Cade Cunningham's back, but Cade can still do his thing. And Tobias, and although I don't love the Quentin Grimes for Hardaway trade, it could make sense, and they get some draft capital as well for somebody maybe they were never going to re-sign. And I like those additions for Detroit. I actually think Detroit had a pretty solid offseason as well. I'd like for them to maybe add another big man, which they could definitely do, and they may have, honestly, that we'll get to. But new coach, I think they added some nice veterans. I love Ron Holland and his athleticism in the draft, and I'm excited. And then I forgot who else they drafted off the top of my head. Who else did they draft? Let me pull it up. Because I think why am I, it's between a couple guys. Oh man, this is 2025. Okay. Could I see? Okay. Hold on one second. I think I can definitely figure it out. Pistons 2024. Why am I forgetting their second round pick? I don't know. Oh, Bobby Klintman. Yeah, which I'm excited for as well for them, for sure. Klay Thompson, big switch up, goes to the Dallas Mavericks. He gets basically $50 million over 3 years. I'm not sure if there's a player option in the final year, but Klay leaves Golden State, ends a 14-year journey there basically since the 2011 draft, won 4 titles in Golden State, multiple All-NBA teams, multiple All-Stars, had an All-Defensive team as well, and was part of the greatest backcourt of the 21st century and one of the greatest ones of all time, is one of the greatest shooters of all time, and it's going to be weird to see him in a Mavericks jersey. For Golden State, it sucks to lose Klay, and honestly, for $16.5 million on average, I would have paid that, and it seems like they would have, but Klay just wanted to leave, and maybe he just needed to change the scenery, and that could maybe spark like a fire under like him next year, and the same with Golden State. I'm excited to watch Golden State, honestly. I like the pickups, of De'Anthony Melton. I like the addition of Kyle Anderson and maybe Buddy Hield. They're going to get in a sign and trade. I think some of the young guys could take some jumps next year. They do need another shot creator, and that could be like a Lauri Markkanen trade or Zach LaVine, but it seems like they didn't want LaVine. But for Dallas, they needed somebody more consistent from downtown in the playoffs. Like PJ Washington couldn't be consistent enough throughout the conference final or throughout round 2 to the finals. Same with Derrick Jones Jr. and same with Josh Green. Like that pickup for Charlotte. But yeah, I do think that actually the Klay signing is pretty good. Shout out to OKC bringing back Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins. They declined their it was like $2 million each for them. Obviously both been former second round picks, but these are great value contracts. $9.5 million for Aaron Wiggins. His versatility at the power forward spot with his ability to create shots, attack the rim, and knock down threes. Love that for them. And then Isaiah Joe as well, making about $12 million on average is also phenomenal for an elite three-point shooter in this day and age. I think these were great contracts for OKC, and Sam Presti did a great job. One of my least favorite signings was Royce O'Neal to the Suns. They probably didn't have many other options out there because they're paying Beal, Durant, Booker, Grayson Allen, and Nurkic all this money, so they had to bring back O'Neal. I just thought $11 million was a lot for watching Royce O'Neal last year. I like Max Christie making $32 million over the next 4 years. Gives him a nice player option in 28 as well. It's crazy for someone who has done little in the NBA, making $32 million guaranteed for him. But I do think he could be a really good player if the Lakers decide to involve him more in the offense. And maybe that's going to happen next year. We'll see. And if he builds up value, he could get moved at the deadline if the Lakers are trying to do something. It was shocking to see Jonas Valanciunas go to the Washington Wizards. On a 3-year deal worth around $30 million. But honestly, this could be a really good trade piece at the deadline or next year's offseason for teams that need a big. I'm actually excited to watch him and Sarr operate in the front court because it does seem like Sarr is going to be the starting power forward for them. And Valanciunas could provide some nice help defense inside and can space the floor a little bit. Derrick Jones Jr., one of the better defenders in the playoffs last year. I don't love his offensive game outside of like an off-ball cutter slasher. And with Harden, that could be great because Harden is still a good alley-oop thrower like Luka is. So I don't think he's going to miss a beat there. And I think that's a really good contract for Derrick Jones Jr.'s defensive ability. Love Najee Marshall to Dallas maybe more than Klay Thompson. I think this is an underrated signing. Good three-point shooter, good defender, good off-ball defender as well. I think that's going to be huge for Dallas in the playoffs. And I think could help offset the loss of Derrick Jones Jr. Kyle Anderson going to Golden State. I don't love Kyle Anderson's game that much, but he's a smart player. Obviously plays very slow in this league. Not a great shooter, not a great offensive player, but like I said, knows when to set screens, won't turn the ball over, and can still be a solid defender in a pinch. If you're playing him more than 2 minutes a night, though, then I think you aren't a very good team. I love Jalen Smith in Chicago. I think that was a great pickup as well for them. He's got 3 years, $27 million. I think that's underrated, and he could be the starting center at the end of the year over Vucevic. And you can even run some two-man lineups with them both out there because they could both space the floor. Goga Bitadze and Mo Wagner, I mentioned it before, but both going back to Orlando. Steals of contracts, man. $11 million for Wagner, $8 million for Goga. I wanted one of them on the Knicks, and they got both of them back. Job well done by Orlando. They also brought back Gary Harris as well for about $7.5 million a year. Why not? Provide you 3-and-D in the aggregate. Not as good as KCP, but could provide at least some of that value. Kelly Oubre going to the Sixers. $8 million a year. I think it has a player option in year number 2. It does. And I do think Kelly Oubre was a very good defender, like on Jalen Brunson specifically in the playoffs last year. And that could be very valuable for the Sixers if Paul George maybe takes a step back on defense and Kelly Oubre can step up on that end of the floor. I like De'Anthony Melton 1 year for the Warriors. He can kind of replace Klay Thompson as well, but he's got to be healthy out there, and you can't really use him off ball as much as you would use Clay. Chris Paul to the Spurs was one of my favorite signings. I am so excited to watch CP3 just give Wemby the ball. $11 million is perfect too. It's going to be tradable at the deadline if Chris Paul wants to get moved to a contender. Teams could definitely give up $11 million for that and easily match that salary, especially if there's trade exceptions out there. He can go for multiple seconds, but if he can give a half a year development, mentor Stephon Castle, mentor Trey Jones, and could progress Wemby even more, even help Jeremy Shohan as a playmaker, that's all you need. And like we've heard that like Shea is like his career was changed by Chris Paul. It could for some of these younger guards in San Antonio. So those were pretty much the top 30 signings. I'll kind of give like a quick hit on some of the or everybody else. Andre Drummond 2-year deal in Philadelphia. They needed a backup big man that was, I think, better than B.L. Paul, and Drummond is that guy. He actually was solid for Philadelphia before being included in the Ben Simmons Harden trade. Drew Eubanks going to the Jazz, 2 years, $10 million, fine. The Jazz got to figure out, like, I didn't really talk about them because they haven't signed anybody yet outside of Eubanks. They got to figure out their identity going forward, and that starts with either extending or trading Markkanen. I like Batum. Back to the Clippers. He's going to be 36. Not what he used to be on the defensive end of the floor, but I think still solid. And as like a spot-up shooter, it's fine. Aaron Holiday back to the Rockets. I mean, as long as he's not getting it to Amen Thompson or Reed Shepherd's minutes next year, I'm okay with it. Love back to the Heat. I'm not a big Kevin Love fan at this point of his career. He should be no more than your 10th man in the rotation. Xavier Tillman back to the Celtics, 2-year deal. That is great for them, honestly. That is fully guaranteed, like $2 million a year. That is a phenomenal deal for Boston, who needs just big man depth. Luka Garza, going back to the Timberwolves, he got a 2-year deal, about same as Tillman. That's fine. I saw like DeAndre Jordan goes back to the Nuggets on a 1-year deal, and I saw the Nuggets are just trying to bring back bad backup centers just to make Jokic's on-off numbers look better to help the MVP case, which I don't think that's what they're doing, but I hope we're seeing more Zeke Naji. I don't know, Zeke Naji or De'Ron Holmes more than DeAndre Jordan. Alex Len, Mason Plumlee, Eric Gordon, Garrett Temple, all fine signings. Just as like end of the bench role players. I think Garrett Temple's kind of underrated throughout his career. He's 38. Shout out to Garrett Temple having a long career. What's his career earnings at? Garrett Temple's made $50 million in this league. Shout out to Garrett Temple, man. That is what I'm talking about. And then we also have DeLon Wright, who I think is a nice defensive pickup. Like DeLon Wright to the Bucks and Chris Dunn to the Clippers. Some of the more underrated point of attack defending guards in this league. Bol back to the Suns. I don't mind. Monty Morris to the Suns also like that as well. They needed a playmaker, and Monty Morris, I actually think that's pretty good value. Luke Cornett back to the Celtics, fine. Mo Bamba to the Clippers, fine. Wiseman, I don't think the money's been reported on, but it'll be interesting to see what he gets. And does that mean Isaiah Jackson? Like, they're not going to pay him next year, potentially. Not familiar enough with Justin Minaya to really have an opinion on that signing. Same with Neemias Queta and Colin Gillespie. I mean, it's really just a two-way at this point. So, yeah, we still have a lot of big free agents left. Or at least notable names, like Buddy Hield could be assigned a trade to Golden State. Where is DeMar DeRozan going? Is it Golden State? Is it the Lakers? Probably not. Is it the Bulls? Like, where's the market for DeMar DeRozan? Like Gary Trent Jr. could get like a Malik Beasley minimum contract trying to play through it. Malik Beasley, I thought, played well last year, but unfortunately is not going to get, I think, a nice contract that he would probably have liked. Maybe something like, trying to think who got like a similar contract that he probably would have liked, like Isaiah Joe, even like an Obi Toppin level deal he probably would have liked to get out there. Luke Kennard's probably going to go back to Memphis. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see like where Tyus Jones goes, Markelle Fultz, Taylor Horton-Tucker. Is Miles Bridges leaving Charlotte? I mean, that deal hasn't been done yet. He could definitely leave Charlotte. I also like Tristan Vukcevic out there as well as an underrated big man. So that is going to wrap up this episode of the Just Ballin' Podcast. I hope you guys did enjoy it, kind of just talking about free agency signings so far and giving like a kind of quick opinion on each one. I'm not sure when the next episode will be out this week, just kind of with the 4th of July weekend throwing like a wrench into it, and obviously busy week, but kind of ending of the free agency draft kind of week stage in the NBA offseason. But make sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to be alerted when any podcasts go live. And if you're watching on YouTube, would appreciate it if you drop a thumbs up and let me know in the comments what you guys think of these signings, and I'll catch you on the next one.